people who work those kinds of hours without the benefit of a labor union. They're called business owners.
Okay, all right, yeah. Never, no.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Just to start off with, we all know what's been going on with the Crowder Daily Wire contract negotiation saga. We reviewed the contract that Crowder was offered with a union contract negotiator, so that's that we thought that was a pretty interesting contrast there. We also talked about Candace Owens attacking Amazon workers for some reason in her screed against Crowder, and so today, and this is probably going to be the last thing we talk about this with this saga. But I wanted to react to this because I found this Labor Day message that Steven Crowder had a few years ago, and it's interesting because the language he uses is just pretty different than what he's been using in this contract negotiation saga. And so just to remind people, a lot of this has been around free speech, but there was some issues that he took with the working conditions, and particularly the amount of work that he would have to do under this contract. And so, let's just remind people what he said about the amount of work he would have to do under this contract. Let's play that first Crowder clip.
Don't sign something that has another $100,000 daily penalty if it's not signed off on beforehand. You get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day. Hey, anyone wonder why there's burnout in this? Anyone wonder why you have kids come up and they leave and never to come back? You think if you had that kind of a penalty, you think if someone said, hey, we're going to penalize you $10,000 every day you miss coming into work, you think you'd be stressed? This is worse than the left.
And so, look, he's really upset about not being able, about the idea that if he misses a day that he was scheduled to work, he would get a $100,000 penalty. Now, a $100,000 penalty, that's interesting. I wonder what that is relatively, right? Like if I got a $100,000 penalty, that would mean that I am having to pay my employer for missing a day of work, right? That would be unfair, okay? And so let's put that in context. The contract offer was for $50 million over 4 years. And so a $100,000 penalty for missing a scheduled day really doesn't seem that bad when you're talking about $50 million over 4 years. Not so bad. Also not so bad when you consider that the contract only had him working for 4 days a week. For 4 days a week, almost certain, working is producing 4 daily shows, one show every day, 4 days a week. That was the schedule. And so, obviously this isn't going to take him, 10 or 12 hours. These are not 4 10s or 4 12s. This is in all likelihood like 4 5s for somebody like him. Maybe some of the people on his production staff would be putting in 4 10s or something, but not Steven Crowder, right? Obviously. And so, and on top of that, the contract allowed for 4 weeks of paid vacation, which is something that not a lot of working people get. And so, he's talking about burnout because he has 4-day work weeks and a 4-week vacation. Obviously very silly when you compare it to normal working people. The average salary in the United States is like $50,000. Most people, do not get 4 weeks of paid vacation. It's just, this is very silly stuff coming from him. And it's also silly when you compare it to his past rhetoric, which is what we're going to look at today. This is a video that he put out on Labor Day 3 or 4 years ago, and we're going to play this clip in full and react to it. So let's go ahead and start that, Adam.
All right.
Oh, hello there. Allow me to express an unpopular opinion for a moment, if I may. Labor Day, as a national holiday, is a scam, and I hate it. No, I'm not going to try and steal your get-out-of-work-free day. You can rest easy enjoying your barbecue and beer while your boss ultimately picks up the slack to keep your pay stubs coming in, all because some arbitrary holiday was marketed to celebrate the working class and you now feel entitled to it.
Okay,
Poor
stop there.
excuse for picking
So
a man's
here's-
pocket every first Monday of September.
Hold on just a second.
Seeing as I'm
Let me-
apparently the only one who knows.
Ooh.
He's going through all of this about like, oh, how bad it is that you have a day off, that you have a day off. For many people, it's unpaid, and for many people, actually, they're going to work today on Labor Day. Like a lot of people. I mean, what would you say, Adam, is the percentage of people that actually have to work on Labor Day? Like 50% of people, maybe? Have to work
That's
on
a
Labor
good
Day?
question.
That's
I'd
a
like
lot.
to know. I mean, because obviously you're talking about the service industry, healthcare industry.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many folks that do have to work on Labor Day. I hate everything about the way this looks. It grosses me out. I'm not sure what this look is about.
But
Free,
so
Free
here
American
he's-
said Hugh Hefner. Yeah, that's a
Right,
good
yeah.
reference there. He's going for this Hugh Hefner look maybe, and his little rifle up there. Okay.
So he's, the idea that he's attacking working people who are not making millions of dollars every year for possibly getting one day off. While today, 4 years ago, he was doing that, and today he is crying and talking about how he would get burnout if he had to work 4 days a week and he couldn't just arbitrarily not work one of them with 4 weeks of paid vacation.
I mean, and according to him, if he missed work, his boss is going to have to work extra to
Right.
pick up the slack just to make sure that pay stub comes through on time.
Yeah.
Might be worth mentioning that labor creates wealth, and that's where value comes from. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every first Monday of September. Seeing as I'm apparently the only one who knows that around here, allow me to explain my opinion. Now, Labor Day was created at a rare moment in history where unions actually served a purpose beyond bitching about six-figure benefit packages and determining which other members' tires they'd slash because of bullshit card check voting. See, that's because the Industrial Revolution, unlike the Agricultural Revolution, which preceded it,
Okay,
resulted in an
stop there.
economy.
Just stop there, because I want to remark again. Here he is. I mean, he's deriding union workers for. He said bitching about six-figure payment packages, while he today is bitching about seven-figure payment packages, which and just for the record, many union people do not make six figures. Probably most union workers do not make six figure.
And those who do, in most cases, do actually
Work for it.
hard work.
Yes.
Work that creates value for a capitalist, clearly, or they wouldn't be compensated as well as they are. I'm thinking about people who work in, manufacturing, people who do specialized trade work, hard work that required training, work that requires a level of skill and sacrifice, all of which are things I would not say about what would you call him? A content creator?
Yeah. Right.
And it's not to say there's not like work that's put into that. We put work into, bringing the show to the airwaves every week, but come on now.
Yeah. Oh, and actually Sid in the chat mentioned it's an 8-figure paycheck that he's bitching about. Not even a 7-figure. He's in the tens of millions of dollars that he was bitching about. And also Free American in the chat says, wasn't September chosen to get Labor Day away from May Day? And that's the actual
correct.
factual thing, right? Is that Labor Day was chosen to be in September to get it away from the real actual radical militant history of labor in the United States and globally. Let's continue.
With a select few people at the top, and then a manual labor class in the factories who were working very long hours just to squeak out a living, sometimes 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Pause it! That's happening today! today in union workplaces and in non-union workplaces. But that's what we've been talking about with this paper mill. And so, yes, some of these people get paid six figures, but they're working 6 to 7 days a week, 10, 12, 16 hours a day. Same thing with the coal mines. Same thing with these Kellogg's workers. And, he is attacking these people.
Yeah, this is an old trope that folks trot out all the time when they're bashing unions. That
they used to be needed, but now
Right.
everybody's got it so good.
Right. Back in the old days, maybe there was a place for them, but, we don't really need them anymore. And my question is, what exactly has changed? Because last I checked, whether the year's 1880 or 1980 or 2023, we have a socio-economic system designed around the pursuit of private profit, and that's how our production is operated. And you have capitalists who are trying to squeeze as much as they can from their labor force. And the fact that there are some differences now between now and the Industrial Revolution is a testament to the struggle and the victories of working class people coming together to extract concessions from the boss and from the state. It's a pitiful argument because, as you point out, anything that happened back then, just about you could point to today, whether that's the continued existence of child labor, the continued overwork of folks, the continued poverty of folks, the continued inequality. In fact, the inequality now rivals that of the Gilded Age. I'll party foul.
Yeah.
That was an actual moment in history, unlike the fabricated one today from entitled leftist socialists who bitch that the American dream is more out of reach than ever because they might have to work a double shift at their retail job to pay off their gender studies degree that they think the taxpayer should ultimately subsidize. Also, notice that I said
it is more difficult to work a double shift at a retail place than to do whatever it is that Steven Crowder is doing right here that he's going to be making 8 figures for. Okay.
Yeah, and also statistically, the American dream is very much dead for a large number of people in this country. And it's not because of a gender studies degree.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're
it's
not
also,
sure about that, just look into social mobility in this country.
Also look at who holds student debt. The majority, the largest single degree holders, the largest percentage of union of college debt is held by nurses. So, yeah.
laborers and not working class. Because the idea that someone who owns that factory, or today someone who owns a business or happens to be an independent contractor, is not working is absurd, insulting, and ironically, anti-intellectual. Think about it. The only difference between a lawyer, a doctor, an investor, or independent business owner, and the working class, as is the current nomenclature, is that the former simply work with their minds instead of their bodies. Does that mean that their work is any less valuable? I thought the left had the corner on intelligentsia. Or does that only apply to modern humanities majors who posit theories and philosophies that needn't yield results in the real world?
Okay, we can just stop for there just really quickly. I don't know what he's talking about, the modern nomenclature of working class, but the distinction between the working class and the owning class is whether or not you work to make a living, right? Whether you work with your brain or your hands or whatever, if your subsistence comes from wages you receive for hours you sell, hours of your time that you sell to a business, you are a worker. You are a worker. You're in the working class. The thing that makes you not in the working class is if your money comes from owning. So small business owners, they might perform labor. Some of their work might come from labor time, wages and things like this. But but also some of their money comes from profits, just from owning. And the larger your business, the more that percentage of income creates for you. And this, that's the distinction. Whether or not your money comes from owning or working, that's the distinction.
them to a T. After all, what gives the working class or proletariats the rights to have the government violently seize businesses and means of production from others outside of the fact that the very cerebral work required to create it in the first place is simply not valued in a communist society? While we're speaking of value, let's go back to the value of time. Again.
Okay, so I want to keep this moving, but I just want to point out that capitalist governments sometimes do things violently. And I'll just leave it at that.
Today, most Americans are horrified to learn that in the time of the Industrial Revolution, many people were working 12-hour days without breaks. Because in the age of today, the average 34-hour work week, who would ever consider putting themselves through that? And that's where we come full circle. Today, while you enjoy your melanoma and corn beer, there are still plenty of people who work those kinds of hours without the benefit of a labor union. They're called business owners.
Okay, all right, yeah. No, I'm sorry, but no, that doesn't count. I thought for a second there he was about to say something real, that, you know, there are people who are working their ass off and they don't have labor unions. And
maybe agricultural workers.
That's exactly who came to my mind. People who are sun up to sundown, you know, picking crops in the heat, in the cold. Yeah, that disturbs me, but I'm going to keep it going.
People you'll inevitably find time to vilify today between your hot dog eating contest and waking up in a boozy puddle of your own filth on some stranger's lawn. Because while
also, that sounds a lot like projection.
Yeah, I have never once had a Labor Day like that. I've never once had a Labor Day like, and it's also worth mentioning the average 34-hour week. I don't know where he gets that from, but it's also.
I would be more than happy though for us to reduce the full-time work week to 34 or 30 hours or lower. But I don't know where he's getting that either. We've got a lot of discussion in the chat that there's a video clip of him getting punched by a union guy. Please send that to us. I would love to see that today.
Oh, have you not seen that?
I don't think I have.
Really?
You know, I stay away.
Oh, dude,
I don't see. You know more about these creeps than I do. I don't. Dude. You know, I purposely try not to know who these people are.
Oh yeah, it's big.
So yeah, I'd need to see that video.
You were taking the day off to play drunken lawn darts. They were likely working to make sure that the lights are still on. Someone has to make sure that you can find your way when you tardily stumble in on Tuesday looking for the Alka-Seltzer. Listen, enjoy your silly day off and have fun. My only point here is that Labor Day just highlights the gross mass generalizations that come from the left in the 21st century. Even though they accuse the right of being racist at every opportunity possible, it is they who exclusively separate and view people through the prism of sex, race, age, and yes, socioeconomic status. This classism is just another way to divide and conquer, turn brother against brother, and to make you think that you're somehow owed something that only Big Brother can provide. So enjoy your Labor Day, and enjoy your weekends off and 8-hour work days for that matter. And yes, like you'll see in all the social media trends today, you can in part thank a union for those luxuries. Just know that they're afforded to you because of someone who enjoys none of them. Someone who doesn't have a standard weekend and has likely gone years of working tireless hours and borrowing money just to make payroll. So, okay, for your time off, benefits, and silly little end of summer holiday, thank a union. As for your job and the ability to provide for you and yours, thank a business owner.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's just absolutely wild to believe that, you know, that describes the majority of business owners, that this is like an accurate depiction of, you know, the owning class as just these workaholics. Right. It's absurd. It's absurd.
There's basically a handful of families that control almost all the wealth in this country. Right. And you want me to feel bad for them.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of terms we could use for a person like that.
And the idea that he used classism to describe antagonism towards the owning class, you know.
Class struggle is a reality, whether you want to name it, whether you want to talk about it. It's just a reality of a society in which there's hierarchy and unequal distribution of wealth and power. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you want to acknowledge it. It doesn't matter if you want to talk about it or not. It's happening. So
And it's worth just remembering that today, Steven Crowder is crying about not being able to willy-nilly take a day off from his 4-day work week, from his $8 million contract. And 3 years ago, he was admonishing working people for taking Labor Day off.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.